So welcome back everyone. So as we have seen the broader diagram last time, so basically here this was the sender, here it was a receiver, and this was our text that has to be transferred. So the thing is, this text is vulnerable to attackers on the way to the destination. Now basically there are two types of attackers. One is a passive attacker and another one is active attacker. So passive attackers basically they only read the data and they will not modify it, whereas the active attackers read as well as can modify the data. Okay, so if this is the sender, this is the receiver, and this is the message that has to be transferred. So it can be read by this intruder. He'll not modify it, he'll just read it. So basically if someone is transferring the important information like that of bank details or something extra, so your office related work, or it can be anything that is important for both sender and receiver as a whole, so their privacy is at risk. He can use this data to at any extent. Okay, so basically, and if mostly this kind of intruders are used to detect the uh, traffic between sender and receiver. They can check in, suppose the parameters are in a day, in 24 hours. They can check the traffic, how much data is transferred between sender and receiver. This is mostly used by business people to do a market basket analysis. What does it means exactly? When a user buys a certain product P1, so how much are the chances that he'll buy a product P2 along with P1? Such kind of data can be extracted from this kind of messages by analyzing the traffic. So analyzing a traffic gives a hell lot of information if some has to exploit some kind of business related strategy or so. Now coming to the active attackers, as we said, they can read or they can modify the data. The type of attackers, the first type of attacker is masquerade. What they do is, suppose the sender is Ram, okay, and the receiver is Ravi, and here is the intruder, active attacker I mean, as a Raghu. Okay, and Ram is sending data to Ravi, and Raghu is communicating with Ravi, but Ravi doesn't know that this data is coming from Raghu. It always thinks that it is always coming from Ram. So basically these type of attacks are such, like Ram is sending to data to Ravi. This is the actual information that has to be delivered. Okay, but the Raghu makes it looks like that the data is coming from Ram, whereas he himself is sending the info. That means there is no authentication here, that from where exactly this data is coming. So he can modify this data according to his needs. Okay, the second type of attack is the replay attack. So basically what happens in this attack is, suppose Ram is the sender and Ravi is the receiver, and this is suppose intruder. In this case I myself will set as an intruder. So basically instead of going this data directly to Ravi, what happens is actually data is sent to the intruder on the way, and he'll send it to Ravi, and here he can read or modify that data. This is called as a replay attack. So the data goes to the intruder first and then to the destination. Another kind of attack for active attacker is DOS attack. Let me erase it. Yeah. What it exactly does is, suppose here is a client and here is a server, and the task of the server is to handle the request of the client. Okay. But what intruder does is, he constantly keeps on pinging server at a very high rate. So what happens is, actually instead of serving the request, the server is busy handling this pinging request. Okay, and because of such stuff, because as this server keeps on handling this request by the intruder, it never gets a chance to serve the client. This is also one form of attack, active attack. So basically, as we have seen all these types of attacks, we'll now basically describe what are the essential factors a network should contain so that these attacks can be avoided in a network. Okay, so we'll name those as security services. So what kind of services we should provide so that those kinds of attacks should be stopped, or at least has to be minimized to some extent. So the first point is authentication. What authentication tells us that when we are at the destination, this service ensures us that the data is coming from a trusted source. Data is coming from trusted source. Okay. Data integrity. This is the most important part. This service makes us sure that the data is not manipulated. The third one is access control. What does it exactly mean? So what it does is, it prevents unauthorized access to the resources. Unauthorized access to resources. Let me first complete it, then I'll tell each and every point how these services avoid those attacks. Data confidentiality. What it ensures is only destination is able to view the data. Suppose A is the sender and the data is being sent to B, so only B is eligible to decode that data. And the last is non-repudiation. It provides protection by denial of any of the service or the entity. So for example, during any data transfer, A sends rupees 1000 to B, and later A says that I never sent the data rupees 1000 to B. So this should not happen. This is ensured by non-repudiation. And what was the exact? So this service, which is authentication, it can sorry yeah so basically this authentication can save us from masquerade and replay attack, as we are sure who is the source, from where the data is coming. Data integrity, it helps in all kind of attacks, or we can be sure that the data is intact when it is being transferred from one host to another. Access control, yeah, we should give access to certain set of entities only, so we can have firewalls in such case. So only those processes which can pass through these firewalls are allowed to access the resources. Data confidentiality, so even if here there is an intruder sitting, he shouldn't be able to read this text. It can be read only by B after decoding. How this encoding and decoding is done, we'll see in the coming lecture. And yeah, non-repudiation, it should be implemented by each and every service, so that any of the entity should not deny the fact that it has done this type of action in the past. So basically a contradictory statement would be, there should not be any other service that has sent data to our destination. We should be sure that it has to be this source which we would be expecting in the first place. Yeah, so these are the security services that any network should have to minimize the risk of the attacks by the intruders. Thank you.